All right, let's, got a big night. Let's stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, everybody, good with our agenda? If so, I'd take a motion to approve our agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Shay. Second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Sandra. Any more discussion on the agenda?
I was curious if the council was interested in discussing the manager's performance in a closed session at the end of this week.
You tell me. Is that what you want to do? I'll be glad to entertain it if that's what you'd like.
Well, I don't know, motion on the floor. I can't add it now, but just want to interject.
Well, we're in discussion. We can back out of that. I know I've had someone else ask me about it today, so. Anybody else want to talk about it later on?
Yeah.
You do?
Mhm.
So I'd need a modification to the
I can
agenda.
amend my motion to approve the agenda with the addition of a closed session after the meeting.
Okay, close to manager performance. Okay, I got a first. Somebody, you good with
Second.
second it, Sandra? So we still got Shay, then Sandra. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anybody for nay? Hearing none. Public comment. We got anybody signed up for public comment tonight? No? Okay, good deal. All right, anybody here want public comment? Didn't sign up? Hearing none. Consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda, or any questions or discussion about it?
I'll
Yeah.
make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Sanders, I'll take a second.
Second.
Thanks, Shay. Any more discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Moving right along, our regular agenda, our public hearing, proposed budget for 2025.
Mr. Mayor, council, if it pleases you guys, I will give the presentation and then open the floor for comment if that works for you guys.
Yes, hang on, let me get my paperwork right. So we gotta go into a public hearing pursuant to this budget. So would somebody put us in a public hearing by motion, please?
I make a motion to enter in a public hearing.
Thank you, Shay. Second?
I'll second the
Thank
motion.
you, Jill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody for nay? Nope. All right, moving right along. We're
All
in.
right, this
Your
will be
presentation.
faster than the first one, promise. So this is the proposed fiscal year 25 budget. So we've moved from a recommended budget. Now we have a proposed budget, and that is what is being presented tonight. Get the mouse to work. All right. So just a quick reminder, key terms. In North Carolina, municipality is the same as a city, town, village. It's all the same. Your general fund is your operating account, capital reserves amounts to your savings account. And with this budget, 1 penny equals 229,000, and that's rounded down. And the fiscal year, when I say fiscal year 25, we're talking about 24 and 25 ending in 25. Next slide, Kevin, you can do that. So this is our schedule. We're on schedule. Today's the 13th. This is a public hearing. We've scheduled the 27th for adoption. You can adopt this budget tonight because it is balanced and it's complete and there have been no changes to it. So if you choose to do that, you can adopt that budget tonight. Next slide. Town services, fire protection, law enforcement, planning and zoning, street lights, street lighting, street maintenance. Those are the 5 services that the town of Mills River provides. All right. And these are the numbers. Next slide. So the tax rate is 17 cents. Again, 1 penny equals 229,000. Capital investments a little over $1 million. The operating budget is roughly 6.4. The total budget is 7,536,255, and it represents a 17.6% decrease compared to fiscal year 24. This is a quick overview. This budget supports 12 full-time and 3 part-time personnel. We're looking at admin assistant, deputy tax collector, moving from part-time to full-time. We're looking at finance director position to recruit and hire the last quarter of this budget that we're looking at now. And then looking at a title change for a position, which will be a crew leader position for Parks and Rec. It also includes a salary and wage increase for staff at 1.5%. You guys saw this last time. This just gives you an idea of where we built some extra capacity, specifically for fiscal year 24. The town built some capacity in the area of finance because you basically brought in a deputy clerk. And so the town clerk then had extra time that could be spent in finance, and she's been spending the extra time in finance. Next slide. Gives you an idea of where you are with your tax rate. As far as the town and the fire department both go, you're near the bottom. This is based on the information that was available when we collected. So, next slide. Reserve expenditures, we're looking at putting back 229,000 for Parks and Rec with this budget. And for Town Hall, the reserves basically is 171,000. Next slide. So overall operations, there's a 7.1% increase in operations. Debt service, there's a 16.6%, but that will come back down. But you've had a significant decrease in capital. And then also overall, this budget represents a 17.6% decrease. These are the expenditures. So just the highlights, you can see that law enforcement, which is police and sheriff, is a little over $1 million. Fire is 2.2. That's basically a pass-through. That's 10 cents that comes to the town, and the town sends that right back to the fire department. Some other significant areas are parks and recreation. That's 669,000. And then capital is $1 million. Administration, if you were to take tax collection, information technology, add that to administration, it would push you over $1 million. But this fiscal year, those have been separated out so you can get a better feel for, especially information tech, how money's being spent. So you're right at $100,000 on the information tech side. Next slide. Capital, 2 categories, community development and parks and recreation, for a total of a little over $1 million. Okay. So a little detail, farmland preservation was 500,000, planning and zoning 200,000. That was for the UDO. And parks and rec, that was 392,000. Playground access is 314,000. There's a truck and trailer purchase 60,000, and a backhoe attachment for 18. And that's basically totals the 1,092,000. Next slide. Revenues, just some of the highlights. The ad valorem is the top, and your state share revenues are basically going to be flat compared to last year. So that's the way the forecast has been made. The revenue replaced ARPA funds. Those funds have been placed in the revenue replacement category. So you're not bound by the ARPA regs as to how to spend those, but I know that you guys are trying to hug those as close as you can to be responsible. And 400,000 has been appropriated from fund balance to balance the budget. So the summary is the total budget for fiscal year 25 is 7,536,255. That includes a little over $1 million for capital. It represents a 17.6% decrease compared to last year. It's a no tax increase budget. The tax rate is 17 cents. That's the same as the current fiscal year. You're upgrading a person from part-time to full-time, deputy tax collector, and you're going to recruit and hire a finance director last quarter of fiscal year 25. This budget also supports the strategic plan process. That's going to be significant. I think we've had considerable discussion about that. It's time the town activate that process so that you can get some things organized, prioritized, and know how you're going to spend funds over the next 5 or 6 fiscal years, and that will help you get there. Next slide. So this is our public hearing. You could adopt the budget tonight, and you could skip having this presented again on the 27th if you choose to do so. You have to adopt this budget by July 1st. We also, in your packet that you have, there are line items in there. That's attachment B. And so when you adopt this budget, if you follow the recommendation that's in your packet, you will be adopting this budget. You also will be adopting the line items. So it locks those line items in. The fund balance, last report from the finance director, we're projecting 8.6 million for at the end of fiscal year 24. That was a projection, but certainly you're well over what the state would require you to have in fund balance. So your finances are in great shape. You've done a wonderful job. Next slide. And this is the graph that was presented. So the end of fiscal year 23, you're at 8.2. So the projection at the end of fiscal year 24 is going to be even higher, 8.6. Again, it's a projection. You won't know until you've closed out fiscal year 24 where you are with that, but you are in great shape. Any question or comments?
Questions from staff or Shannon?
Just a reminder, on your second page of the staff report, there is a very lengthy recommended motion. There are 5 items in there. There are 2 ordinances, there are 2 resolutions, and there's also that motion will adopt the document, which is the budget document that Councilmember Davis has in her hand. And if you adopt that, then you can go back and use that as guidance to give you some clear instruction. If there's any ambiguity, it's all in there. So by adopting all this, you have all you need to make sure this budget gets executed the way that you'd like for it to be executed. So that's on that second page. You can read all that detail into the record, or you can refer to that second page as that recommendations is written, and we'll drop that in the minutes as your motion to adopt this budget for fiscal year 25. Thank you.
Any questions for staff before I move on to public comment?
I have one.
Sure.
So there's a state required minimum of a fund balance. I guess it's a percentage based off of your collections. Is there a maximum?
Not to my knowledge, no. But
Okay.
if you say too much, you should be asking yourself why. Ask yourself why you aren't lowering taxes.
Mhm.
It's there to be spent. Know how you're going to spend what you spend it on. And if you say too much, you should be asking yourself why. And ask yourself why you aren't lowering taxes. It's there to be spent. So that's on that second page. You can read all that detail into the record, or you can refer to that second page as that recommendation is written, and we'll drop that in the minutes as your motion to adopt this budget for fiscal year 25. Thank you. get results you're looking for, SNP, be there, sort of that service. So I don't see a limit technically at all.
Thank you.
I think moving in the strategic plan process, you're gonna quickly find out that it's gonna come down extremely fast. Once you get through that process and you see it.
Lou, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, there's not technically a required minimum. That's a myth that you have to have 8%. But if you do start dropping below an arbitrary number that they find when they're looking at your numbers, then they get concerned and if you're not paying your bills, they'll come looking. But don't forget, we did adopt fund balance policy at a range between 65 and 75%. We are currently above that, but we're paying a lot of bills here at the end of the year, so we'll see.
All right, public comment. Anybody got public comment on this budget? Be willing to listen if you got anything to say. Hearing none. All right, if that's, nobody's got anything to say, any more questions for staff? If not, I'm gonna ask somebody to give me a motion to close this public hearing on this budget.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, Shay, all right, second,
I'll second the motion.
thank you, GL. Any more discussion on it before we go? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, okay. All right. So we could, entertain a motion. If,
I'll be happy to make it. Do you want me to read this? Do you want me to read the entire motion? Okay. Patty, can I make this motion? I'll move the town council adopt the following 5 documents to clearly establish the fiscal year 25 budget and guide its implementation. And it's 1 through 5. Got it all. Okay. It's already typed out.
I got a motion. If everybody's good with it, I'll take a second on it.
Mayor Gantz, I'll second the motion.
All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay,
Good work on the budget. That's
yes.
a lot of work. Thank y'all.
All right, so we get our pile situated here. And we'll get ready to move on to our public hearing on our text amendment. I think that's what this is. Mills River Rural Residential. Somebody will make a motion for us to go into closed session or public hearing on that, please. Sorry. All right, I got a first motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Shay. Any more discussion before we go in? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. All right. I guess Michael's gonna lead us in this one.
Thank you, council members. So this discussion started, it's been going on almost 8 months with the planning board, but originally started when the town was considering an annexation and assigning zoning to a property in a rural area of town, kind of at our southeast corner. The planning board discovered at that time that the mixed use zoning district, which covers 2/3, 3/4 of our town in these rural areas, is not consistent with the desirable uses that are identified in our future land use map in the comprehensive plan. Those areas are identified as rural residential future land use areas. And mixed use allows almost all uses. And so this kind of started the discussion about should we leave mixed use zoning in place in the southern corridor, southern part of town, if we want to preserve the rural character of the town. So again, in your staff report, there's a summary of everything the planning board looked at. At their April meeting, they directed staff to start drafting this text amendment to add a new zoning district to the zoning code. And then at the May meeting, with a couple of minor changes, they recommended approval of that zoning district to council. Before I move on, public hearing was properly noticed. We had public advertisement in Hendersonville Lightning on May 29th and June 5th. So as I've talked about so far, when people call and ask what you can do in mixed use, I often say it's almost like open zoning, because there's no permitted use list. There's no prohibited use list except for radioactive waste plants, hazardous waste material sites. Really, it is almost every use is allowed by right, except for some of the higher intensity uses we require special use permits for, some multifamily, RV parks, tiny home parks, et cetera, manufactured home parks. But today, if you apply for a commercial use, an industrial use, and mixed use, it's going to be permitted as long as you meet our general development standards. So the rural residential future land use category in the comprehensive plan emphasizes maintaining the rural character. And this is what it says in the comprehensive plan. Development should include a mix of agricultural uses, rural homesteads, low density single family development, and low intensity employment uses. Desirable uses include parks and public space, trails and recreation, agriculture, estate lots, single family residential. Acceptable uses include civic and community uses, schools, single family residential, and then not desirable uses are industrial, commercial, and multifamily. And basically, we used all the input from the planning board, the one discussion session we had with council, and then we looked really closely at the Henderson County R2R, rural to residential zoning district, RMR30 district, and again, took all that input and basically created the draft zoning district that's before you tonight. So I don't want to get the words confused because they're both called rural residential. The new rural residential zoning district that's before you tonight, and this is the goal or purpose statement that we've drafted, is meant to facilitate orderly development in rural areas of the town not well served by public utilities, where the primary uses of land are single family residential on large lots, agricultural, and rural light commercial uses. The district is meant to allow uses compatible with the town's rural areas while also maintaining the rural small town character of the community. So the draft district is included as attachment A, and I'm just going to kind of summarize some of the uses that are permitted and not permitted. So non-residential uses that are allowed in the district include churches, farm and produce stands, care homes and child care facilities, clubs and lodges, community buildings, public facilities and buildings, indoor commercial shooting range, riding stables, parks and recreation facilities, golf course / country club, camps, bed and breakfast establishments. And then other non-residential uses that are allowed with a minor special use permit in this district would include landscaping materials sales and storage, machining and assembly and service operations in an enclosed building, offices, kennels and animal boarding facilities. Specific items that were excluded or prohibited and were taken out of it is self-storage, automobile service establishments, and repair garages. Those were actually drafted in the first draft included in the first draft of the district, and then when the planning board reviewed it, they felt those didn't fit the character of that area. So this is not, the action tonight is just to create the district in our code. This is not a rezoning. We're not applying this to property, but you should keep in mind that with the rezoning public input coming at the end of July and with the town's rezoning action initiated by the planning board, the goal is to apply this district in those rural areas where there's this inconsistency with the comprehensive plan and mixed use zoning. And again, to look at those in detail, the future land use map is attachment B in your packet. And you'll see there all the light green color, it's up on the screen too. All the light green is the rural residential future land use area that calls for these more limited uses and preserving the rural character. Attachment C in your packet is a potential rezoning map that we've developed with planning board input. So in the red, it's defined by roadways and the town border. In the red, again, this is the initial area we're targeting for a potential rezoning. The little area in purple around Gash Road, that highlights a lot of the existing businesses down there. We had thrown around the idea of doing neighborhood commercial there, but wanted to identify that there are commercial uses there, that we should keep that in mind when doing the rezoning. That's all I have in your packet. The planning board statement of consistency and recommendation is in there, and then your draft statement of consistency is as well. I'm happy to take questions or go through the draft ordinance line by line if you wish.
So before we ask anything else and hearing this, does anybody have a conflict of interest with this? I know I do. I live there. I live in it. So I don't know that it's fair that I go anywhere with this. I don't know how to. I live right in the middle of it.
You're just creating this.
Yeah.
So you're not applying this to a specific spot. But even if you were, small towns, that's all about. But property.
Let's say,
I would ask this board, I'd pool this board if you think I need to be part of this or not. Me living right in the center of this. I just wanna be open about it.
may affect me too if we're going that. See,
No, I concur with
You're
the
outside.
town
Am I-
manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
it only goes up to South Mills.
well, we have property on
Oh.
South
I had a question.
it's gonna take some
Is
money to
this
sell.
just applied to what's within the red ring?
Well,
Can I-
that's, sorry.
This will be future.
That,
That
that's
might be-
where the planning board's looking to do the rezoning, but again, tonight, we're just talking about code language. So
Just trying to
it,
develop
it,
a,
if council were to adopt this tonight, and I'm not saying you will, it would just be incorporated into our code book and would not be applied to any property in the town. The idea is with this rezoning coming up, we want to create the district first. So when the rezoning does come back in August or later in the year, that district will be ready for us to apply to certain areas.
But that wouldn't be able to fit for the whole town.
That'd be a decision and a conversation at the time of the rezoning, but you're correct. It's something to consider as part of this, because the whole point of creating this district is to, change the mixed use zoning in these rural areas to help preserve the character.
can we figure out if I'm participating in this or not, please? I mean, are you good with it?
Yeah.
You good?
Yes.
Well, so it goes where exactly?
You
I
good?
can't see.
Shay's good.
It-
Well, it may affect me.
The
Okay.
border on the northwest side, starting out at Schoolhouse and 280, goes up Old Turnpike and then Kinsey to South Mills to the town border.
I think
Okay, because we own
you're on
property.
the other side. of
Yeah,
the
we own property
turnpike.
on South Mills River though.
That's true.
Take out so many people.
Okay. I just don't want to get us in trouble. It affects every council member. Mhm.
No one chose this. Didn't have to.
Okay, all right. Let's move on then. So ask away. Any questions? Any questions?
Well, I'll go back to my question.
Yeah.
Instead of just limiting it to right there, change some of the verbiage and apply it to the whole town.
Well, we're not making that decision today.
Well, I know we're
But-
not, we're discussing it.
Okay. Okay. But we will have to discuss it again with the planning board. Planning board will bring us back recommendations on it, and then we can actually be in a group meeting with them, I think is the plan. Yes, that's the plan. We'll all be there together and, hash that out. But just keep in mind that could happen. If you go along with this, it can happen. And I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I like it
I
overall.
do too.
And there were, to Councilwoman Good's point, there were preliminary discussions at the planning board to apply it to our larger area. But again, with the UDO land use code update project coming up this fall, and there's going to be public input for that as well. They're going to be looking at the zoning map also during that time. And so again, I didn't want to bite off too much early because there's going to be a consultant working on some of that later in the year as well. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the planning board's concern was what can we address now while development's still happening? And the southern corridor seemed to be the area that has that rural character where mixed use could allow anything. But you're right, there are, I mean, almost 3/4 of the town, the zoning is inconsistent with our future land use map.
Well, I'll at least add the comment that I was pleased to see that the draft that as proposed at least has provisions through the special use, both major and minor, for things like residential subdivisions, so that if somebody does own 100 acres of land that's undeveloped and steep, but there's no infrastructure like public water and sewer, but they may want to subdivide it or develop it for residential purposes, they're not going to be bound to 1/2 acre lot sizes, if I understand correctly. If they're the hurdles of the major use.
So, yeah,
Or major
the major
special use.
special use, yeah, allows some of those special development types like the cluster development where you can have slightly smaller lot sizes, but the density across the whole parcel is less. But by right, you can still, well, through the subdivision code, you can still develop just a traditional detached single family subdivision, and that does not require special approvals. As long as you adhere to the new minimum lot size, which I believe is 1.5 acres in this document.
But there is the opportunity to do like a 40,000 foot lot size if you did the planned residential as a major special use, correct?
Correct, yes.
Anything else?
Right, that you can't have a manufactured home, mobile home on one parcel, but you could have a manufactured home park.
You are allowed to have a manufactured home on one parcel. I don't like to call out the specific dwelling types, so I just put single family dwelling. So that could be stick built home, that could be manufactured,
Okay,
any type of permanent dwelling.
okay, that's why it's essentially in there twice. Thank you.
Mhm. One thing I'll point out that we have not talked about, I think we've had some preliminary discussion about it, is at the very end of the code, the last page and a half, are the standards we drafted for accessory dwelling units. So this zoning district, again, if applied somewhere, would allow accessory dwelling units with these specific standards to control them. That's section F.
I saw that and I had a question with number 6.
Mhm.
The one parking space shall be provided for an accessory dwelling unit. What if there's 2 people in there and they have 2 cars, or what if they have company?
You can have more, but you gotta have a minimum of one, correct?
That's-
When the site visit's done for CO.
That's correct. These are minimum standards and maybe that needs to be clarified. Yeah.
On this minimum lot size of 1.5 acres, is there a chance that it would change in that group session with planning board? Up or down?
That's a possibility.
But we're locking it in tonight with this, but we would have to do an amendment to it or no?
That's correct.
Okay.
If council chose to adopt this tonight, and if you received feedback on July 23rd at the public input meeting where citizens, let's say, preferred 1 acre, we would then have to do another text amendment just to change that one part of the code. Mhm.
Okay.
And again, there's no rush to adopting this. If it's council's pleasure, this item could also be tabled until you get the feedback you desire.
Right.
I just wanted to start the process before we get into the deep parts of the rezoning. So again, the district will at least be created before we start applying it to certain areas.
Any other questions before I open it up to public questions?
I gotta ask Mike one more question
Okay, no
for my own, good. What's the difference in a non-commercial greenhouse and a commercial greenhouse?
Like one that sets up my
Where is
house
that?
versus your big facility. Basically.
Number 7 on the first page.
Be my accessory building.
Oh,
How big is a commercial greenhouse?
that, yeah, customary accessory building. So, I mean, this really is talking about single family homes. So, as long as the principal use of the land is residential, there's not going to be we're not going to impose a limit on someone's accessory building size.
But I could build a greenhouse that
Yes.
is involved in agriculture in this zone.
Yes.
Agriculture
Well,
would be the-
agriculture is exempt, so
for
you
any
could
Okay.
build
Right.
that wherever.
I just
Hmm.
doing my best, Bert Lemkus impersonation.
Yeah, but you're correct. I mean, and we've done this plenty of times. There are people with houses that build barns or other accessory structures that are even larger than the homes, and we don't limit that in any way.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none?
And the setbacks on there go from the edge of the pavement?
So it's different, and these did change, so thank you for bringing that up. So again, there's non-residential setbacks, and then there's the residential. In mixed use currently, there is no residential setbacks at all. So people call, ask where they can put their house, and I say anywhere. But right now for non-residential, it would be 100 feet if you're on Boylston Highway, and that's measured, I believe, actually into the pavement because it's such a wide road. If you're on a regular street, anything else besides Boylston Highway, it's 60 feet, and that's from your front yard property line. That's for commercial or non-residential. And then 30 feet for rear and 30 feet for sides. For residential, it's a little less because again, there's no setbacks there now. So from a major street, which would be Boylston Highway, it's 40 feet for the front yard. 30 feet is the front yard setback if you're just on a regular private road. And then rear and sides are 15. We felt that was a good, reasonable starting point.
And if it's going down 280 and they put the, what is it, the Mills River Valley Trail that's going through there, is it going to be from the edge of the road or the edge of the greenway and the walking trail and the ditch?
No, as it's written here, and I didn't write this language, this is just what's always been in the code, where the major street is more than 2 lanes, which is Boylston, setback requirements are measured at a point 12 feet into the pavement. So you actually go 12 feet into the roadway and measure from there back.
Okay.
So that it would not be, there would be no penalty if the trail went through there, yeah.
Okay.
Will it start from 12 feet into the trail?
No.
No, into the road
280.
pavement.
So the trail on the greenway would be eating up your property.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, there's so much right of way down there, but you're correct. The trail and there's specific requirements, especially with the speed there, of how far it should be separated. But the trail, if and when it gets built down there, because again, we're more focusing on the northern end, it would be well backside of the ditch, yes.
Anything else? Anything more? We'll come back. Don't worry, we'll come back. Okay, anybody here for public comment on this item? Or heard anything you want to talk about it? Hearing none. Well, here's your chance to, have we got any property owners, anybody that's affected? That's here, that wants to comment? Any other parties here that's, gonna speak in behalf of somebody else? Hearing none. Well, I guess, we ask for any final questions for staff or anybody.
This was, how many times at the planning board? And
7
this,
months.
Well, the initial discussion about the inconsistencies started in November of last year. The first time it went to the planning board, I believe, was in December, but we really didn't start digging into it until January. So basically, the January meeting up until the June meeting.
Okay.
Or May, sorry, May is when they recommended approval.
And just remember, this is just to develop a district, but not have it applied yet. That makes sense to everybody.
If we develop just the district, is the verbiage still gonna apply as to what is allowed and what is not allowed?
That'll all be in the discussion with the planning board.
So
And-
that's not
It's in
setting
it-
in the
It's in it
district.
now, and if we approve to, adopt this tonight, then it is in there. But it ain't applying to anybody until we make it an effective district. And at that time, if we make any changes to it, we'll have to go back and have another text amendment to change anything that's in it. So if you're thinking about changing any of this, I would suggest we either table this and figure it out with the planning board, or, I don't know, if it's just a change or two, we might could do it tonight if it ain't a lot of changes, correct? If it's just one or two changes
You can adopt with modifications.
with modification. So if you're seeing something in there you don't like, I'd suggest everybody speak up now.
I'd be towards tabling it and waiting and talking with the planning board and hearing public input.
Okay.
Is what I would feel comfortable about.
All right. 10-4. We just need to make sure we revisit this, sooner than later, because we got to get it established before we can move forward with any rezoning.
When is the next public
July
input?
July 23rd, so Tuesday, July 23rd is the public input meeting. And again, we're going to be sending out postcards to the residents in that circled red area, online survey, website page, the whole 9 yards to get as much public input as we can. The planning board, we've advertised that meeting as a joint planning board and council meeting. Actually, I think we've advertised it as a planning board meeting where a quorum of council may be present. And then the idea is to collect as much public input then, plus the online survey will be going. So we'll be able to present some of those results that night. And then I can't remember when the August planning board meeting is, but basically when the planning board reconvenes, I think it's August 6th. That's when they would take up that discussion, because they've not really finished with the rezoning recommendation yet. So they would talk about the public input, make a decision on the rezoning, and then recommend or not to council for the rezoning action to assign the district to properties. But council could take up the draft language at that time, because we'd still have to advertise a public hearing. So realistically, it wouldn't get to council, the rezoning, until September at the earliest.
Exactly. Okay.
The surveys you do, are they gonna be open to anybody or just residents up there or just residents of the town?
It's open to anyone, but one of the questions is, are you a resident? And if you answer yes, you can also say if you're a part-time resident. So we're looking to collect that data, kind of mirroring what the park master plan survey did. And we'll have paper copies here as well. So again, if someone gets a postcard, it actually says on there the website, but it says paper copies available at town hall.
Is there gonna be a way to identify if you take the survey once or more than once?
I don't believe so. I mean, we could do that. We thought about that by requiring emails, but I know not everyone uses email, so we didn't want to exclude people.
How we did it with the park survey, to look for kind of spamming. You can get a copy of IP addresses essentially, so you can tell if more than one. But what we want to do is make sure, if you have a husband and wife in the same household, that they both get to have their input. So you don't just you don't want to eliminate just one per household. But you can do that review and be like, oh, we got 15 from that same IP address. And then you can kind of use that data to know if somebody who really did want something, really didn't want something. For Parks and Rec, it was the pickleball folks.
Yeah, if we get a number of responses that are suspect, that I won't delete them, but that'll something we'd mention in the results when we present them that night. But our goal was to just make it as accessible to as many people as possible to get as much input as we could.
So is it this council's desire to table this until we get more information? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I'll make a couple comments if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
One, I think the town needs a zoning district like this on its books, and that's what we're considering tonight. The second thing is, it's been my experience that people generally will give you more response. They'll respond to something specific. If they can see it, examine it, then they usually have really strong comments. If it's sort of nebulous or, just sort of thrown out there, it's hard to garner a lot of quality comments. But if they can read in black and white and they say, I absolutely do not want this. So we have public hearings or public input sessions. I'd almost feel better that if we had it on the books, and obviously it's not going to be applied anywhere in the town at this time, but it's on the books, and then people that might be impacted within that red line say, well, I absolutely do not want that. And that gives a clear message. If it's say, well, it's something that the town's looked at or the council looked at, that the planning board developed, they tabled it, it's sort of, so I'm just making I'm a proponent of, the staff's recommendation of actually considering putting this on the books prior to our public input. Doesn't have to be tonight, but I would like to see something like this so that the residents can react to it. And if it means we need something between MR 30 and the rural residential, and that gives direction to both the planning board and the council of what folks are wanting, or if everybody is in opposition with, pitchfork and torches, and, we'll end up not applying it hardly anywhere. But I do believe there are appropriate places in this town for it. And the real work will be in the map where we apply it, who we impact. I'm not opposed to getting it on the books, something either just like this or with some modifications before July.
Yeah, well, Jeff, if it stays in the abstract, people may not turn out.
Exactly. That's my biggest fear of it. We're moving to suggestions. I mean, we can put it back on 27th meeting and try to get as much information as we can between now and then.
The planning board doesn't meet again before that.
Well, I mean, we could call around and ask the questions that I think is needed, possibly.
If we put it on there and don't apply it, is it still on there in the background, or will it go away?
No, it's still on there, but I mean, we could always take it back off.
Okay.
We could make a motion at some point to revisit this and then come back and, amend it or do away with it or whatever. I'm-
Can be changed, so, like, if through Pittsburgh's come with
Mhm,
something, then we could change it. Or amend it after the fact.
mhm.
You
Yeah.
can table it to a specific date also. If you want to.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, maybe, if I was thinking they could get information that y'all need through by the 27th by phone. If you're wanting to go to a planning board meeting, it's gonna have to be later, more later than sooner.
Didn't they change the planning board meeting?
So we're all meeting at one time, end of July.
Yeah, it's a special called meeting, July 23rd.
Yeah. Which will be basically discussing all of this. But the problem is that's gonna be the public session too, when they can come in. So that might be the first time they really get to see this. I think that's one of Jeff's gripes with it.
I can see his fear in that because if they think you're actually gonna do something, they will care.
Exactly.
And people may not turn out if it's just still in the
Right.
thought stages. But if it's actually been adopted, then that may make people actually listen and come and see what it's about.
So I'll entertain a motion either way, to table it or to move forward with it.
Well, I'll give it a go and say I'll move that this council approve the text minute TXT 24-02 as written.
I got a motion.
Do
How
we-
about a second?
Do we need to leave our public hearing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Sorry, got carried away.
I'll motion we close the public hearing.
Thanks, Shay. Second,
I'll second.
thank you, Jeff.
Then I'll second Jeff's motion.
Okay, all right, let me get a vote
On the other
here.
one.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we're out of close. Out of public hearing. Sorry.
Then I'll second Jeff's motion to
Okay,
adopt the text amendment.
Yes,
As
ma'am,
written.
as written.
okay. So Jeff and Shay, any more discussion?
Is there a chance we could leave attachment C off of this? Just, I understand it's not being applied, but just as a visual and then invite the entire town. Because it does, or it could affect more than the red line.
Yeah, when you say invite the entire town with postcards or just,
If you,
you see what I'm
Well,
saying?
so first of all, the attachments are just for your reference. They're not part of the zoning ordinance.
I think this is a
we-
whole town participation.
We
thing
did
anyway,
already
so you gotta-
send the postcards and the mailing list to the mailer. Now they've not gone out yet. But we'd have to do some maneuvering if you wanted to invite the whole town.
no,
My only consternation with that again is that with the UDO consultant coming on, we're gonna be engaging the whole town, not just about zoning, but about our whole code. So I've kind of taken the position with the planning board that we should focus just on an area we can bite off now and address for the rezoning and wait for anything else until the consultant's here, because that's what we're paying them to do as well.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none? All in favor of Jeff's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, it passed, so we'll. All right, so we're done with this. I'll have to find it when, staff gets caught up, the fire department contract. Everybody ready? Okay. Thank you.
So, basically what you have in the packet is, virtually the same contract that had on the books runs for 10 years. It recognizes the current, tax rate currently have, and as you know, those rates can change based on we have the staff of the town attorney take the old contract and virtually copy it word for word, there's a few minor tweaks. You got basically looking at the same contract. Been operating on it. This is 15.
I have, yeah, they're okay. You know, naturally, they haven't seen it. They're just going off of what, I've told them was gonna be pretty much word for word. I know you had some, thought about the length of the contract, so I'm willing to hear that as well. If you think it needs to be addressed in any way.
No, I would just made a comment to our interim town manager, if he was in discussions either with the chief or with the board members or any of the board members, if there was any desire to change the length, revisit it any time sooner than 10 years. But if the board of the fire department is satisfied with 10 years, it served the town up to this point that way. So
Yeah, I mean, their thought is unless we change the pass-through method, there's no real reason to change it. You know, they'll cover their part of it, and it's just a pass-through for the tax money for them, so they're good with it however long we want.
and
Make it.
therefore, I have no changes or
Okay.
suggestions for it.
Any more questions, discussion on this? Hearing none? I'll entertain a motion to adopt this contract as written.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the Mills River Fire Department contract for the duration of 10 more years.
Sandra, second.
Second.
Shay, any discussion on it? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Okay. All right, we got to, when everybody gets caught up again, we got to discuss this. There's some leftover monies at the signal light that we was funding up at the fire department. And it's my understanding, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's right at $19,000
I think that's
was
what,
left over.
19,000.
Yeah.
roughly.
So the question is, for council, do we want that money back? Or are we willing to donate that leftover money for equipment for the volunteer firemen that they've gained since they've got the new facility?
And their plea is that they've had a lot of new volunteers and they could desperately use that money for some turnout gear.
Yeah, turnout gear for the new volunteers.
Let me give up, or what was the light originally?
80,000, I think. I think that was
But
right.
DOT come back in, when it was all said and done, 19,000 less, so. It's just, whatever's council's wishes is on that. They'll be glad to give it back, or they'll be glad to buy turnout gear for the volunteers with it, either one. They will designate it for the equipment for the volunteers if we so desire. It ain't like it's just going back in their general fund balance.
I guess if I had any question, it might be directed to our finance director is on how have we managed it financially? Have we transferred the funds to the fire department and they're telling us they have a surplus and we need to take it back in, or I don't know how we're accounting for the money if we're using 19,000 for something other than the traffic signal.
First, my apologies. I was checking to make sure we had a copy of that contract signed. So I missed most of this discussion. So,
Okay, let me get you caught back up. The fire department called me and said that they had a surplus of around $19,000 left over from that DOT had sent them a check back for the signal light in front of their station that we funded. The council and town of Mills River funded for them. So he wanted to know if council would entertain the idea of them depositing that check, since it's already in their name, or deposit it and send the money back to us, or buy turnout gear and equipment for the new volunteers that they've got since moving in the new building.
okay, we've accounted for it as spending ARPA funds. That we made a donation to the fire department. Is that answering your question?
Yes, I didn't know if how it appears on our books, if it's an $80,000 expenditure that went to the fire and rescue, then then we're done with in terms of us tracking it.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
but it's absolutely, we even did a budget amendment recently to cover it. Because it was coming out of our community service line item and went straight to the fire department, but we had earmarked some of the former ARPA funds for that.
Given that, Mayor Gauntz, at least from where I sit, then I'm perfectly fine with them using it for turnout gear for new volunteers, especially if they were able to recruit some. That
Okay.
improves public safety in Mills River.
Any more discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to pass that along to them. I'd like it in a motion if possible, some form that we,
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that we donate the rest of the $19,000 from the traffic light to fund for equipment for the junior volunteer fire department or
for
firefighters.
volunteers, I don't know for juniors, but volunteers.
Right.
Fair statement,
Yeah.
yeah. So volunteers, second,
Second the motion.
okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, they can buy some turnout gear. Moving on to E, reappointment planning board, Mr. Foster's term that ends July 9th.
So Mr. Foster's been with the planning board since 2012. I've talked to him and he is willing to continue to serve if you're willing to reappoint him.
Council's pleasure. I'll entertain a motion to have him back on board or any discussion or whatever y'all wish to do.
How many meetings have you missed in that time, Jim? How many meetings have you missed? And how many years?
Heart
Ye-
valve replacement.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Jim Foster to the planning board for a term ending July 9th, 2026.
Thanks, Shay. Second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Sandra. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, preliminary discussion about dogs in the office.
So the last meeting that was had with Kathleen Osta, basically staff had taken on the responsibility of drafting any necessary policy to help manage that issue. And so what we're trying to do now is get some information from council so then we know what to relay to staff as they do their work. And Captain Mike Malachek is leading that team. So I think it would be good for us to be able to give them some direction so they know, what the parameters are in developing policy, if at all, depending on your input. So I've received 2 surveys back from council members and just need 3 more. Don't have to put your name on it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that input and then I'm gonna craft something, bring it back to you on the 27th and for formal approval. So at that time, I'd be asking you to vote on the various positions.
Okay.
That I've sent to you.
All right.
So, have you guys finished the surveys? I've gotten surveys from 2 of you. If you guys could,
Should have one in your stack somewhere.
There should be one either in a stack or in an envelope or something. There's one here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get them back to him by the end of the night.
that'll work.
Manager Baldwin, I responded to your email where you solicited this information about a week ago. Now, do you need this survey in addition to my response to your email?
I did receive your response. And I will take that and work that into what I bring back to you guys for the 27th. So
Okay.
you guys will have that and the results of this survey.
Okay.
We'll have a policy on the 20.
No. Direction to give Michael if we've got any parameters for him to work inside
Just
of.
some guidance.
Just so he don't write I'm gonna just cut the chase, just so he don't write up a bunch of stuff and then we come back in here and say, no,
Right.
no, 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 no.
Say we
I
never
mean,
wanted
that's,
it.
I'm being straight up. I mean, I'm just telling you how it is. I mean, we're just trying to get some ideas together with us to feed to you that we're kind of okay with. That's all we're doing.
Don't want them to burn a lot of energy doing something
Yeah.
that when it comes back to you.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work
Mm.
from your perspective.
Yeah.
When I say you guys, I mean the board as a whole.
Mhm.
You can vote on what I bring back to you. You can vote it up, you can vote it down.
Mhm.
But I will bring something back to you based on your input for you to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then we'll use that, then turn to staff and say, this is where council is
Right.
on this issue. They then can take that and will know how to proceed with policy.
Understood.
Yeah. Mike's still gonna draw us up some kind of something, and then we'll go from there. It just saves him a bunch of work, I think, if there's any parameters to be set on.
But you're not gonna work on it until this one.
He's probably
Yeah, I've
already,
been,
he's
I've been
probably
given,
already working on
no,
it. No.
no, I've
Okay.
been given the direction to not do anything
Okay.
until council takes a
Okay.
position.
All right, fair enough.
That's right.
All righty.
So if
Anything
you
else?
guys can give that to me tonight,
Okay.
before, and I think, Councilmember Young, there's still a way for you to answer those questions from your perspective. So, whatever you
Yeah,
choose
I
to
just didn't
answer.
want to double up.
I don't think
Like the
you want
Parks
to.
Director talked about, I didn't want to put in 15 responses.
Right. You won't be
I
doubling
didn't know if
up.
I've already responded to this or not, but
No.
if you
By doing it-
understand.
By doing it this way, we'll be able to take a look at apples to apples. Okay. So if all of you can give this back to me tonight, we'll go from there.
Fair enough. Any more discussion on that? Not, we'll move forward. Moving forward. Park rules update ordinance 2024-09 first reading. Is this first reading a public hearing? So do we need to go into public? No. Okay, fair enough. So,
Yeah, this
Oh,
could be
when
the
you're ready.
first and last reading if you so desire. Just, so we've spent the last few months, I've been working with our park staff who has to enforce these rules. We've had conversations with the Parks Advisory Board as well as the town attorney, just to look at any updates that are needed to our park ordinance, to cover everything from changes in state or federal law, things, just that we've gotten feedback from the public about, and to address, some liability concerns that can help better protect the town. So we've looked at that and you have the recommendation changes in front of you in your packet. So what you have is the old ordinance with the strikes throughs and changes that were made by either myself or the town attorney in that. Would you all like me to go kind of through each change? Do you just want to ask questions? It's completely up to the.
I'd say all of us have read it. It really just depends on council. I mean, you got specific questions about it? Do you feel like it's something that we need to go one-on-one, on? It's up to y'all.
I had a few questions. On page 1, it talks about, rules for the parks of the town of Mills River. And then further down, it says the ordinance shall be applied to all land owned. Do we need to clarify as all land owned throughout?
That's probably a question for the town attorney. I think that goes back to, the current, for example, our property next door is not a park yet,
Right,
but these rules would also apply on that property.
right.
So I think that's so all town properties own, it would apply for everything. But
Right.
I could ask the town attorney for clarification. if
Oh,
there was
Well,
concern
just to
there.
make sure that we're covered everywhere.
Mhm.
And you want me to go on?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. On page 2, it's talking about the rules should apply, and it's the fourth line down. Neither the town of Mills River nor any agents, should we add contractors in there or employees shall be responsible or liable for any damage or theft?
I think agents would cover
Contractors?
contractors.
Yeah.
Okay. And on page 3, it says all cyclists are encouraged to wear helmets. Should that not be required?
That would be up to this board. So that is not a change. So the original park rules does not require helmets. We encourage it. The only requirements we have is that they follow state law. And so state law requires anyone under the age of 16 to, if they're riding on a public street. So that actually doesn't even count. So we, of course, encourage folks. But that is certainly a position we can take as a town if that's something that the council would like to do. If you wanted to require folks to wear helmets in the park, we certainly could.
I think it's a good idea. This right here's considered the one road we do maintain, right? And we have helmets that we give out.
We can't police that though. Really, I mean,
It would just be like any other park ordinance that, I mean, my staff certainly could, if they saw something without a helmet, say that it is required. If it is a direction you want to go, I would recommend that it's for children. Just like state law, it's anybody under the age of 16. So I would reflect that on park property.
Would it,
It's up to the pleasure of this board.
Not for me. Public, I'm a people rights person. If they want to wear it, wear it. If you don't. That's where I'm at with it. That's me.
well, I was just looking through here.
Yeah. I mean, don't let me talk you out of it. I'm
Yeah.
just,
Well, and then the sentence down below there again says, appropriate gear in the parks versus property.
Which one?
The next line down, where it says all cyclists are required or encouraged to wear helmets. And then right down below where it says and greenways, it says the town parks. What happens if they're over here riding and they decide to take off over there?
So you want that to say on town property?
Yeah.
Okay, we can make that change.
And I had a question where it said advertising. It's the last line. It says, let me just read it here. It shall be unlawful for any person to place or erect any structure or sign, bulletin board, post, pole, advertising device of any kind whatsoever in the park, to attach any notice, bill, poster, sign. On down through there to the last sentence, it says, except by such persons as authorized by the town manager or a designated official. Is there a specific person for a designated official?
That would be me. Yeah,
Okay.
so.
So it would
the-
just either be the town
So the
manager or
town manager
you.
Could authorize the park director to enforce that on their behalf, so they didn't
Okay.
have to be the one making the day-to-day decisions.
Okay,
But ultimately, the town manager would have that authority.
okay.
Going back up to the use of a bicycle on the sidewalks,
Yes.
I guess I'm asking what prompted that, down here, when you technically are supposed to get on the road and bike up.
Yes, so there's been, in there, we've always had, there's not been great verbiage on where you can and can't ride bicycles. And so we wanted to make it clear that you can ride on the multi-purpose trail and you can ride on the roadways. It's like you can on any street, but we want to keep folks off our designated sidewalks, so in front of this building. They're narrower. We've had kids, they end up trying to ride from the parking lot down to the playground. They're hitting old ladies with their bike handles. So that's what we're trying to avoid is they called them walkways, and that was a very misleading term because you can walk on trail, you can walk on the sidewalk. And so we just wanted to clarify that we have the paved trail, we have sidewalks, which are your concrete sidewalks where bikes would not be permitted.
Will that be, will we cover ourselves on that when we get the walkway, the handicap path down? Or should we tag it in here somehow? Will that be considered a sidewalk? You see what I'm saying? That
It
might
would
be in this.
considered a sidewalk,
Okay,
so it would not be permitted.
okay.
And I think that one specifically, I'm not even as concerned about bicycles, but skateboards, we'll
Mhm.
probably have to address that with some sign there.
Exactly. Okay.
But I still could get from that ship 25
The Willow Oak,
up to the shaded playground.
you can do that on the,
without-
correct. You couldn't get to the library. That's where the disconnect would be.
Yeah.
Um. And this just applies to the town park here. My next question was down there on the greenway. For tobacco. If you have a greenway, it's just for in here in the park. It's not for the greenways on trails that are going on the roads coming, right? It's page 7.
So this is the use of tobacco and vaping products of any kind are prohibited in any park, greenway, or public building. So that means any park facility.
So it's
any
just
greenway
here.
in the building. And the reason Greenway was added in a few places for just for future reference, when we have the bike path for Highway 191, that's basically an extension of the river. And so we wanted to make sure a lot of those rules specifically applied. So the intention is when we have the 191 bike path, that folks would not be allowed to smoke on that path.
How are you gonna police that?
As, I mean, just with all these, same rules, it's there for
Yeah.
people to know. A lot of times we just hope that they follow the
Okay,
rules, so.
okay. And back to page 6, the disturbance of fish and aquatic wildlife in prohibited areas. What is gonna be a prohibited area?
You're talking about where's designated? So
Mhm.
it's saying there's anywhere where we have, basically where we put public access. So like, we have steps down.
Right,
That's an area that you're supposed to access. What that says is you can't, we don't want you accessing places, we don't want you to make your own path to get down to the
Okay.
river. We only want you to go in those designated areas. So currently we have 4 essentially. We're by the
Right.
stones, we got where the swing bench is. We
right,
have the fishing pier and then the boat launch. We don't, it's not designated where people try to cut those, what we call social trails.
right.
to
So,
get
but
there.
you can still use the whole river.
You can use the river, it's the access.
Okay. I think that was all my questions. I had time on my hands.
Wow, that's good.
Anybody got anything else?
Just for clarification, electric bikes weren't mentioned specifically, but is your intent to lump them under any other self-propelled motorized vehicle?
It is. So our rule is anything that is not propelled by a human. So even with an assist, it still has a motor. And so that is not permitted in the park.
Okay.
And you won't be able to use that on the trails on the side of the roads either?
That's correct at this point. I mean, that's something as that comes in,
You
people
could,
are gonna use that more
Right.
for maybe commuting, things like that. We may wanna look at it.
okay,
But speed is a factor with those and that could create a dangerous situation. So
okay.
at this point, it is the intent to not allow electric bicycles.
Okay. So are you looking for us to, a motion to adopt these?
Yes, yeah, I think the only change was adding,
Or
The land,
on town property with the bicycles to make sure everything says on town property. So I think we can adopt that with change that it's for.
Did you think about the metal spikes thing on the baseball field? Page 14. Number 9.
It's not something that came up when we discussed. I can tell you it's very hard to enforce. So I don't think it would change use one way or another if we use it. People do use metal spikes and we have really no way to, other than checking every kid's shoes. It doesn't,
And the age is using that.
the only,
That's
the
what they
only
wear.
thing you could use is when somebody does get the spikes used the wrong way, then that would, you would have something to maybe have them not wear them back if it was in there.
Well, see the ages that are using the field,
Yeah.
that is the age that they wear metal spikes. So they don't all travel with an extra pair of shoes either to make them
Sure.
change. So I almost want to just take
yeah,
it
all the,
out.
all the groups, like just as an example, rugby, they know that that's the rule, that they're not supposed to wear metal spikes. But does every team they're playing,
Have a pair, an extra
they-
pair? No.
Yes.
when they come? And
Okay.
there's folks, and we just don't have the manpower to check everybody's shoes when they.
Or
go out
tell
there.
every team they've got to forfeit because they can't
Right.
come on a field.
So,
As long as they just don't get to hurting people with them, I'm good with it. When it starts being a problem, we'll have to address it.
so do you want to remove that? Is that?
Makes you just scratch it.
Yeah, we can. It'd just be a modification. You know?
More? Okay.
So do you want to not require helmets? Or to require helmets?
Again, it is up to this
It's up to
board.
this board.
I certainly encourage people to wear helmets. That's why we focus so much on education and our bike helmet giveaway, especially our youth. I can tell you lead to a lot of confrontations with my staff. People that don't feel the need to. So that's just, my staff, they enforce a lot of rules that people don't like, so this would just be an addition. But ultimately, it is up to this board on whether that's something that you all would like to require on town property.
Jay, what do you think?
I would leave it and encouraged. Let it be up to the parent.
James,
Encouraged.
Jeff?
the same.
Okay.
uh, as is right now. Anything else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to, adopt these changes to these park rules.
Mayor Gauntz, I move to approve the updated changes to the park rules suggested by staff with the 2 modifications regarding to the park to property and the spike prohibition in the ball field.
Okay.
I'll second.
We got Shay, second?
Mhm.
Any more discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And, okay, contract for the human resource services. I guess that's a Sue item.
Yes, it is. Council in previous meetings, did approve as of July 1 for us to hire an HR firm. What I presented you is the proposed contract with our attorney's comments. I hope to have the response back from the HR firm for tonight, but all I know is that it's with her attorney. She's agreeable to most of the changes, but wanted to run some of it past her attorney. So I would want any comments from council. And if you wanted to, you could approve it with our attorney approving any additional changes.
Am I correct in saying that our town attorneys is in red? Is that how I'm reading that?
Yes.
Okay.
Strike through, but that strike through is also.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Yes, anything in red is a change that came from our attorney. Pages after the signature pages are what we sent out as an RFP
Right.
for response, and as to what we're requiring. It's just our attorney did have a little problem with the way it was presented, as it refers to an attachment A and B, and she appears to have combined it all. I've asked, if we either call everything one attachment or we split it. But the items will not change.
What's council's pleasure?
So can we even vote on this if we're not? If she's still talking to her attorney?
That is council's choice.
Oh, okay.
So I hope to have her by tonight, but she did not respond to something about. So we can put it on another agenda.
You just want to move it straight up till the next one. The
What
July
if-
20.
What if she
June
doesn't agree to some of the
27th.
things that Sharon changed?
They'll have it
Well,
hashed.
That's why I said if you approved it, it would be with our attorney approving any change,
More changes?
but you don't have to approve it.
So
Yeah, I think we just move it 27th. That'll be, that way surely both attorneys can look it over by then. And then we'll all feel good about it.
Just so you know, even if the contract starts July 1, they probably won't be processing anything for us till August, just because of timing. She'll have to learn our software and just working out logistics.
Okay. Any questions or anything that needs to get addressed on this?
Well, I had one, I don't know whether directed to the manager or the finance director, but do you envision working with this consultant that, say, the manager would be the liaison, that if staff had a question about leave or anything HR related, they would convey that to the manager, and the manager be the contact person that goes back and forth, or the finance director, or do you see just employees calling at will if they have questions concerning HR?
I don't foresee employees calling this agency. Maybe a supervisor would in order to work with a hiring, but I think some of this would be up to the new manager as to how it would be. Somebody here would have to be a liaison, collect timesheets, get them there. The manager would have access to information. Probably if the manager doesn't choose to collect the timesheets and be the only liaison, then they would have to assign someone. I've been doing the payroll, so I would assume it might be me, but that again, I don't think is my decision.
On section 5, council. Services, it says a specific assigned as a point of contact on its account related to the client. Be that person. The liaison. Something that person sees something they need.
So if we assign it to the manager, he can delegate it. Okay.
So we good with it? With our attorney approval of the changes, or are we putting it on the next meeting?
Well, one other quick question I had,
Okay.
if I may,
Mhm.
obviously there's a funding issue with the current, or the budget that we just approved for the upcoming fiscal year starting in a month. How do you want to reconcile, how do you recommend the town reconcile difference between what we budgeted and what this contract would cost?
Right now, I would say that we have contingency in the admin department that could be used to cover that. But there's also, it's very common to have line items not be fully used. I do not foresee it to be an issue in any way. It's just not a significant amount for our size budget.
How much are we returning back to the fund balance?
We predicted that at one point. However, sales tax is down the last few months. So I'm not sure what that will be this year, for sure.
So just I'll give it qualitative. So at the end of each fiscal year, looks like the town has done a good job of not spending balance line up. Race to spend. So then you end up making what's one spent, that through budget. Roll it back. Say, based on the rate. Turn the money back to the prior year. Basically.
I don't think it hurts anything to move us out to our next meeting.
I agree.
And then we just see if that's okay. You got us, Patty, or Sue wrote it down. Everybody okay with that? We'll just relook.
Do you have any questions you want me to
That's-
take to our attorney?
They will be handling the background checks on new hires, correct? This,
Yes, once this is in place.
once it's in place. Okay. That's one of my biggest concerns. Okay. Anything else? All right, not, we'll move forward.
Hey, before we move on, we forgot to adopt the statement of consistency when we did that text amendment. Can we go back and do that?
Yes, we sure did. I've probably got an example here of something we've done before, but we might get Mr. Malachek to help us with it.
Yeah, it's attachment E in the packet, and it basically mirrors the statement of consistency that the planning board adopted. The main items that are highlighted is that rural residential zoning district is consistent with goal 1 of the comprehensive plan, protect and enhance the rural small town character of Mills River. Objective 1.1, manage growth to meet goals of the comprehensive plan and provide for efficient use of land. 1.4, consistent and updated code of ordinances. And objective 2.3, appropriate residential lot sizes and densities.
Way to do it?
Yep.
I make the motion to adopt the statement of consistency with the Making Mills River 2040 comprehensive plan. The text amendment is consistent with goal 1, objective 1.1, policy 1.1.1, policy 1.1.2, policy 1.1.3, objective 1.4, policy 1.4.5, and objective 2.3, policy 2.3.1.
Awesome. Second,
I'll second that.
thanks. Jen. Any more discussion on all that? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Thank you for writing that down.
Vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. You got, that'll get us, thank you for catching that, whoever caught it. Okay, staff reports, financial director, town clerk. What y'all got going on over there?
Well, I have a couple of items tonight. First one, we've just done a supplement to your ordinance books. Our normal practice is to gather everybody's books and update them, but with the UDO coming up, those books will be obsolete. So basically my question to council is anybody actually using their book? Do you want them updated or do you want to just use it online for now?
I mean, I probably don't have to get into mine 2 times a year, 3 times a year at most. Somebody call with a question, I have to dig it out on the weekend or something, but I can't direct them.
I don't even have one anymore.
So is that yes? Yeah, we forgot to give you one.
Yeah, I gave mine back and didn't get another one, so
Uh,
I'm good. I'll look it up if I need to.
So by consensus, updates or no updates? I'm okay with no updates for this UDO coming. Okay,
Excellent.
alright.
Okay, that saves a bunch of paper. All right, the, excuse me, the other item is you have a meeting August 22nd. And will not have a clerk, myself, or your deputy clerk, because we'll be at a conference. We'd like council to consider moving that to August 29th. And we need to know now only because, we may be planning a public hearing.
August 29th.
August 29th from,
How soon do you need to know that? Cause I don't have my calendar in front of me. I usually schedule all my stuff around town council meetings, so,
When you can let us know.
okay, fair enough. And then we can actually pull the trigger on it by motion the next meeting. Fair enough? That give you plenty of time for the public hearing? Everybody just remember to look and check. I'm bad to, it
sure,
probably wouldn't hurt. I mean, to be honest, on something like that.
August 29th, and they're still gonna still a meeting August 22nd.
No.
Oh, okay,
Can
I was thinking.
Can I missed asking, how does that happen that both of you are at the same one? Just a required one? Okay,
Yeah, it's a school and I'll be honest, this is my last.
okay. No,
Your,
no
your
problem.
farewell tour.
Farewell.
I would only go to things up until December. Then all any funding would go to fund finance, towards our finance person. Training.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Anything else? Patty, you got anything? Nope. All right, Arlie, tax collector?
Your report in your packet reflects the collections as of May 31st. The collection percentage is 99.2%, a little bit less than the year before. In the last 13 days, we've gotten over $10,000 worth of taxes, and that has kicked that percentage up to 99.5%, which is almost 1/4% over the entire year last year.
Is that your record?
I'm very happy. Yes, that's my record.
Yay,
And that's
Charlie.
without motor vehicles. We've got less than $19,000 to collect out of $3.7 million. I'm very happy.
Doing great.
Yeah, so that we've collected some other years as well. There's a lot of people, for whatever reason, are calling up and making arrangements for to pay old taxes, and yeah,
Good.
it's working out really well.
It's
So-
always good when our tax collectors smile.
This is true.
Okay. If that's all, I'll move on to Parks and Rec. Nicole?
Just a couple of things. So we'll have our first movie in the park next Saturday, June 22nd. We'll be showing Barbie. So show up in pink. But that movie will start at dark, so 8:30. Should be a fun time. We got kind of too much to just list here, but tennis camp's ongoing, and we've got that's been going on this week. We've got another session in July. Soccer camp starts next week, are the big ones. And then mostly I just want to thank, the last 2 weeks, I started our picnic professionals. So I want to thank the North Carolina Port Service, came and did our first one. They even came out in raining. The kids had a great time, shooting their hoses and had a real good time. And then this week we had North River Farms come out and bring some equipment and teach about farming and agriculture in the community. And next week we have a Sunday construction or full equipment and bring us a really cool big machine. So that's every Wednesday, all summer long. So just come bring a picnic every Wednesday, 12 o'clock. And we'll have some really cool Mills River business out there. So I just want to thank those groups for donating their time. And then lastly, I want to thank the fire department. They came by this week with their ladder truck to help restring our flag, which our rope had broke, and they are always great to, when I call and need something really strange, they show up. So I'm just very thankful again for the Mills River. Something like that.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Just a quick update on the conditional rezoning application that the planning board considered. So they considered this for the first time at their June meeting. And we had scheduled a special planning board meeting on June 18th to continue that conversation. But due to some attendance issues, we had to cancel that. I just want to mention that because it was in some of my weekly reports, but basically the planning board heard the conditional zoning for the Brown Ridge multifamily development in June, and it will be considered next time at their regularly scheduled August 6th meeting.
Okay.
The contract for the UDO consultant, the town attorney finished reviewing that with very minor changes. So you may possibly see that at your next council meeting for approval. Also at your next council meeting, we'll have a comprehensive plan amendment, that's on your schedule. And we talked plenty about the rezoning public input. And then I just wanted to thank the planning board for all their work on, the zoning district. It's not easy to create a zoning district from scratch. And although I find it interesting, zoning is not always interesting for everyone to talk about. So I just wanted to thank them for their engagement and work on that.
All right. Town manager, you guys see anything?
Just say, appreciate staff and town council's input on the budget process. We got through it.
Yep.
And, so it's been a good process. We're there.
I'm glad. I'm glad it's behind us and moving forward. Council comments. Anybody got anything? Hearing none?
I'd like to say thank you for all the work that was done on the budget. I know y'all put a lot into it to get it approved this early. And
sure.
appreciate that. And I did go to the grand opening for the pollinator park the other day. If you've not been up there, you need to go see it. And the chimney just sets it off beautiful.
Good.
But everything's blooming. There were a lot of people there, a lot of people that have put a lot of hard work into it, and it's greatly appreciated.
Good. Anything else? If not, we've got the closed session for manager performance here at the end, but I need a motion to adjourn our regular meeting. A second? My bad. Okay, thank you so much. Shay is got us going into closed session. Second,
I will second the motion.
thank you, Jeff. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none.